Bruno Mars, once the king of the stage, the voice behind unstoppable hits and electrifying performances. For years, he was untouchable, a superstar who defined an era of music. But now, as he nears 40, the shine has faded. Behind the glitter and Grammys lies a story few expected, of struggles, setbacks, and a career that no longer burns as brightly as it once did. This is the untold truth of Bruno Mars today. Born to shine, Bruno Mars, whose real name is Peter Jean Hernandez, entered the world on October 8, 1985, in Honolulu, Hawaii. Unlike most kids his age, Bruno's childhood was far from ordinary. While others played in backyards or got lost in cartoons, he was already living inside music, surrounded by instruments, rehearsals, and the rhythms of performance. His father, Peter Hernandez, a Brooklyn native of Puerto Rican and Jewish descent, filled the home with the heartbeat of percussion, congas, bongos, and drums that kept the family in rhythm. His mother, Bernadette "Bernie" San Pedro Bayo, brought melody and grace, a gifted singer and hula dancer who had journeyed from the Philippines to Hawaii. Together, they created more than just a household, they built a stage where young Bruno's destiny began to take shape. Music wasn't just background noise in Bruno Mars' home, it was the very heartbeat of the household. His parents built a life that revolved around rhythm, song, and the stage, and it didn't take long for their youngest star to step into the spotlight. By the time Bruno was barely out of diapers, he was already performing in front of live audiences. His father ran a family band called the Love Notes in Waikiki, and little Bruno became the show's secret weapon. Dressed in a miniature jumpsuit, his hair slicked back, he transformed into Little Elvis, a pint-sized impersonator with uncanny accuracy. With every hip shake, every soulful note, and every bit of swagger, the toddler commanded audiences in ways seasoned performers could only dream of. By the age of 4, he wasn't just performing, he was stealing the show. Crowds came expecting a family act, but what they witnessed was a child who seemed born for the stage. The buzz spread quickly. Soon, Bruno's talent reached beyond Hawaii's stages. In 1992, he landed a cameo in Honeymoon in Vegas, charming the screen as a mini Elvis impersonator. Local media rushed to cover the phenomenon, spotlighting him in magazines and newspapers as one of the youngest Elvis tribute acts in the world. But while the spotlight burned bright, life behind closed doors was far more complicated. Bruno's family struggled financially, facing numerous hardships. He has often shared how these experiences fueled his drive to achieve success. Despite the difficulties at home, music became his refuge, providing him with purpose and a dream to aspire to. By his teenage years, it was evident that he sought more than just local recognition. Starting his performances in Hawaii was a promising beginning, yet he understood that the real opportunities lay on the mainland. At the age of 17, after graduating high school, he made the bold choice to leave home for Los Angeles. This was a significant step for someone so young, particularly since he lacked substantial funds and a definitive plan for success, but he brought with him a wealth of experience and an unwavering faith in his abilities. The initial phase in Los Angeles was anything but glamorous. Bruno encountered a series of rejections from record labels that struggled to find a way to market him. Some deemed him too unconventional, while others dismissed his style. To sustain himself, he took on various small jobs while relentlessly pursuing his dream of breaking into the music scene. Financial constraints were a constant challenge, and there were moments when he questioned his decision. Nevertheless, he remained resolute. Despite the numerous obstacles, Bruno's significant breakthrough was imminent, and soon the world would discover the true essence of the struggling songwriter. When Bruno Mars first landed in Los Angeles as a teenager, he believed that his years of performing in Hawaii would swiftly lead to fame. However, the music industry's reality was starkly different from his expectations. Even with his remarkable voice, captivating stage presence, and relentless ambition, record labels were unsure of how to categorize him. They couldn't find a suitable niche for him, which limited his opportunities to shine. Rather than surrendering, Bruno began to work behind the scenes, seeking any possible way to gain entry into the industry. When Bruno first arrived in Los Angeles, the city didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. He scraped by on small gigs, chasing every opportunity just to survive. But rejection followed him everywhere. Labels dismissed him, saying he didn't look the part or sound like the star they wanted. The sting of those words cut deep, but instead of breaking him, it lit a fire. If the world wasn't ready to see him as a singer, Bruno decided, then they would hear him as a songwriter. That single shift in focus became his lifeline. He poured his soul into melodies and hooks, crafting songs so infectious they couldn't be ignored. His gift quickly caught the ears of producers and rising stars hungry for something new. Before long, Bruno was quietly shaping the sound of the mid-2000s, co-writing tracks for Brandy, Sean Kingston, Adam Levine, and even giving artists like Flo Rida chart-topping hits. Fans sang along without knowing the man behind the music, but inside the industry, his name was spreading like wildfire. And then fate intervened. Bruno crossed paths with Philip Lawrence, a fellow songwriter and dreamer, who shared the same hunger, the same bruises from rejection, and the same belief that their time would come. Together, they began building the foundation of something bigger than either of them could imagine. They immediately clicked and made the decision to work together. They quickly got in touch with producer and engineer Ari Levine. The three of them joined together to create a songwriting and producing combo they dubbed the Smezingtons. One of the most significant turning moments in Bruno's career was this collaboration. The trio, known as the Smezingtons, started collaborating with some of the biggest musicians. They produced hits for singers such as Cannon, Bob O, Travie McCoy, and CEO Green. They gained greater prestige and opportunities with each endeavor. In 2010, Bob's Nothing on You became the group's breakthrough hit. Bruno sang the hook in addition to co-writing the song. The song received Grammy nominations and peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, demonstrating its enormous success. Even though Bruno was still working behind the scenes, his voice was now being heard by millions of people. Bruno appeared on the chorus of Travie McCoy's Billionaire, another number 1 single that year that the Smezingtons helped write. Bruno was more than simply a background songwriter, as these singles demonstrated. He was in the forefront because of his personality and sound. The world began to take notice. In the years preceding his breakthrough as a solo artist, Bruno continued to experience a great deal of rejection despite his success with the Smezingtons. Executives informed him early on that he wasn't marketable enough to serve as an album's face. Since his music combined pop, R&B, funk, reggae, and soul, several people were unsure on how to classify it. At the time, some people didn't think his appearance or manner matched the norm for a pop artist. Bruno didn't give up, instead, he used those years to hone his skills. He was able to experiment with sounds, structures, and genres by writing for various performers. He researched what made songs resonate with listeners and used that knowledge to inform his own compositions. Bruno was discreetly preparing to disprove the label's doubts about his marketability. Make your way to the top. When Bruno appeared on Bob's 2009 hit, Nothing on You, his career took off. He sung the mellow, poignant chorus in addition to co-writing the song. The song peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became a global smash. It was also a commercial success abroad, topping charts in the UK and other nations, and remained there for several weeks. When Bruno's voice was heard for the first time by many listeners, it instantly caught their attention. In the chorus, his fusion of strength and warmth made the song enduring. Shortly after, Bruno co-wrote and performed on the song Billionaire, which was released by Travie McCoy in 2010. He was on the chorus once more, singing a catchy and light-hearted tune about wishing to live a luxurious lifestyle. The song became one of the biggest songs of the summer and peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Millions of people had heard Bruno's voice by this point, and his name was beginning to show up everywhere in music headlines. These two partnerships were significant because they demonstrated that he was more than just a writer who worked behind the scenes. He was at the front because of his charisma and vocal ability. Viewers realized that the individual responsible for these hooks was capable of much more. Bruno's first solo single, Just the Way You Are, was ultimately released in July 2010 after years of anticipation. The emotional ballad was about adoration and love without conditions. It became an international sensation very soon. The song spent 4 weeks at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 after debuting there. It also reached the top of the charts in a number of other nations, including as Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom. The success of the song was enormous. It became a wedding favorite, sold millions of copies, and was played non-stop on radio stations all over the world. It was the ultimate affirmation for Bruno that he had made it as a solo artist. The public had accepted him as a celebrity in his own right, not only as a featured guest on someone else's song. Bruno started to gain notoriety from the music business in addition to his chart success. He was nominated for multiple Grammys for his work during this period. The Grammy Award for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance went to Just the Way You Are in 2011. This victory was a significant turning point since it demonstrated that industry insiders and critics held him in the same regard as his admirers. His reputation as a showman was further cemented by his Grammy appearances. Bruno's live performances were based on his powerful voice, his band, and his innate ability to engage people, in contrast to many other artists who mostly relied on production. He stood out from many other up-and-coming performers on stage because of his confidence, whether he was singing a ballad or an energetic tune. In October 2010, Bruno's first album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans, was made available. The album showcased a diverse range of inspirations from his early years and songwriting career, encompassing pop, R&B, reggae, and soul. There was more than one kind of sound. It was a collection that demonstrated Bruno's versatility. Hit songs including Count on Me, Marry You, The Lazy Song, and Grenade were featured on the album. Every song showcased a distinct aspect of his creative abilities. While the first song was frivolous and light-hearted, Grenade was a dark lament about heartbreak. Count on Me, a delicate acoustic ballad that showcased his softer side, and Marry You gained popularity as a proposal and wedding song. Millions of copies of Doo-Wops and Hooligans were sold globally, making it a commercial triumph. It peaked at number 3 on the US Billboard 200 list and did well in a number of other nations. Bruno's ability to blend contemporary pop sounds with old-school inspirations won him accolades from critics. His music's honesty and diversity were adored by his fans. Bruno Mars accomplished what many musicians strive for years before the end of 2011. He achieved global renown, a Grammy, a best-selling debut album, and chart-topping songs. He was now one of the most significant new voices in mainstream music, and the years of rejection and hardship in Los Angeles were behind him. However, celebrity also came with new demands, and Bruno would soon have to deal with issues that would put his reputation and personal life to the test. Bruno's connections. Public curiosity about Bruno's personal life increased along with his stardom. Early in his career, he was connected to a few well-known relationships, such as Rita Ora, an actress and model. But one relationship in particular became a major theme in his narrative. Model and actress Jessica Caban has been Bruno's long-term companion since 2011. Although the two have occasionally shown up together at occasions, he has kept their relationship rather quiet, in contrast to many celebrities. Bruno has frequently discussed how challenging it may be to strike a balance between personal privacy and celebrity. It was challenging to maintain his personal life and career apart due to the media and fans' attention. Although he respected his solitude, everyone wanted to know about his relationships, family, and way of life. In spite of this, Bruno avoided a lot of the scandals that frequently befall celebrities with his level of notoriety. He favored letting his performances and music take center stage over the news. His family continued to play a significant role in his life as well. When Bruno's mother Bernarde died in 2013 from a brain aneurysm, he experienced sadness. He eventually acknowledged that the tragic loss had permanently altered him. Nevertheless, he carried her memory with him and frequently gave her credit for igniting his passion for music. In addition to his #1 songs, Bruno Mars had established himself as a superstar who was respected for his style, showmanship, and capacity for self-control in the face of unceasing attention. However, as his notoriety increased, Bruno would soon experience arrests, litigation, and setbacks that put everything he had fought so hard to achieve to the test. In September 2010, Bruno suffered one of his first significant setbacks. After a gig in Las Vegas, he was partying when he was detained at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, just as his fame was about to soar. Police said they found him with a little amount of cocaine in a restroom. Fans were taken aback by this news at the time, since Bruno had been establishing himself as a polished, positive performer who avoided bad behavior. A cocaine possession accusation resulted after the arrest. Bruno acknowledged his error and cooperated with the police. In court, he was mandated to pay a fine, receive drug counseling, and perform 200 hours of community service. In order to escape jail time, he also had to avoid trouble for a whole year. Bruno handled the situation tactfully, despite some people's concerns that the arrest would destroy his budding career. He openly expressed regret, describing it as a bad choice and pledging to concentrate on his music. He was able to quickly restore his reputation by accepting responsibility and fulfilling the conditions. Fans were eager to follow him as his tracks continued to rise in the charts within months. Nevertheless, the episode continues to be one of the most talked about low times in his life. 2014 saw Bruno's second significant issue, although this time it was connected to one of his greatest achievements. One of his most well-known songs of the decade was Uptown Funk, which he co-wrote with producer Mark Ronson. The song sold millions of copies worldwide, received numerous Grammy Awards, and topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 weeks. However, as its popularity increased, so did claims that it over-appropriated classic R&B and funk tunes. A number of organizations filed lawsuits alleging that Uptown Funk had plagiarized portions of their work. The most famous case concerned the Gap Band, a funk band from the 1970s, who claimed that the song's beat and vibe were too similar to their tune Oops Upside Your Head. After a settlement, the Gap Band members were eventually listed as credited writers on the song. Bruno Mars was criticized once more in 2018, this time for cultural appropriation. Some detractors claimed that Bruno, who is Jewish, Filipino, and Puerto Rican, was making money off of African American musical traditions such as hip-hop, funk, soul, R&B, and R&B without actually being a part of them. After he won multiple Grammys for 24K Magic, an album heavily influenced by black music from the 1980s and 1990s, the controversy intensified. One widely shared video accused Bruno of stealing black culture to further his career, sparking heated online debates. Numerous supporters stood up for him, pointing out that Bruno had collaborated with many black artists throughout the course of his career and had always been transparent about his influences. They maintained that rather than being exploitative, his song was a tribute. Nevertheless, the charges spurred discussions about representation, ownership, and authenticity in the music business. The incident hurt Bruno because it went right to the core of his reputation. He had long been praised for using his music to evoke feelings of happiness and nostalgia. Now, though, others were wondering if that happiness came at the expense of other people. Even though the argument eventually subsided, it left a lasting impression that made him aware of how quickly public opinion can change. Although Bruno was praised for his music, rumors of his financial difficulties also started to circulate. There have been allegations of growing indebtedness brought on by lavish spending, despite his chart-topping hits, sold-out tours, and residencies in Las Vegas. Bruno had a reputation for living a wealthy lifestyle, with expensive parties, fancy cars, and houses. According to media reports, he had problems with taxes and business administration, which resulted in court cases and significant settlements. Despite his continued success, other reports said he owed millions of dollars. Although it was difficult for viewers to comprehend how someone so famous could experience such difficulties, it demonstrated how easily money can disappear in the entertainment sector. Bruno was compelled by these issues to rely increasingly on residencies in Las Vegas, where steady performances generated steady revenue. Although lucrative, residencies are frequently viewed as a step down from the pinnacle of mainstream celebrity, which has led to conjecture that his financial difficulties had constrained his options. Bruno Mars had weathered criticism, legal issues, lawsuits, and financial hardships. But his carefully cultivated image was marred by each scandal. The issue that arose as the setbacks mounted was whether Bruno could maintain his superstar glow or if the stress of everything would finally cause him to lose it. The Star's Decline. Bruno's third studio album, 24K Magic, was released in 2016. The project was an exuberant, vibrant celebration of R&B, funk, and party culture from the 1990s. Instant singles including 24K Magic, That's What I Like, and Finesse took over radio and streaming services. The CD seemed to be a whole package, glitzy, upbeat, and made to be sung and danced to. 24K Magic had tremendous success. Bruno started a global tour that sold out stadiums and arenas all over the world. His stage appearance, dance, and band, the Hooligans, were commended by audiences for producing one of the greatest pop music live performances. Bruno had honed his showman persona by this point. He was also rewarded by the industry. 24K Magic won every major category at the 2018 Grammys. He received multiple awards, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year. It was among the decade's most memorable Grammy evenings. It was the pinnacle of Bruno's fame, demonstrating that both critics and admirers viewed him as the full artist. However, 24K Magic was also, in many respects, the pinnacle of his career. Given his tremendous achievement, the next question was, where can I go from here? Bruno took a lengthy hiatus from releasing solo music following the chaos of 24K Magic. He was working on a new project when he eventually returned. He and Anderson .Paak formed the duo Silk Sonic in 2021. They collaborated to record the smooth, soulful ballad Leave the Door Open, which was reminiscent of R&B performers from the 1970s. The song was praised for its sound and vocals and became an instant hit, peaking at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Fly As Me and Smoking Out the Window were among the other songs on Silk Sonic's follow-up album, An Evening with Silk Sonic. Both Bruno and Anderson received praise for their talent and chemistry as well as Grammy honors for the collaboration. The craftsmanship was praised by both critics and fans. The CD was well-produced, nostalgic, and mellow. However, some people thought it relied too much on vintage elements. Bruno had always referenced earlier genres. However, Silk Sonic's sound seems entirely based on nostalgia. This was genius for some. An artist who masters and revives traditional styles. Others thought Bruno was going overboard by depending too much on the past instead of pursuing something fresh. Bruno's early solo work had a greater cultural impact than Silk Sonic, despite its success. Although it received praise and accolades, it didn't take center stage on the charts or garner as much international attention as 24K Magic. Bruno Mars's recording career took a further hiatus after Silk Sonic. Bruno grew quiet, in contrast to his previous years when he seemed to have a new hit on the charts all the time. Fans have been longing for new music for years because he hasn't put out a solo album since 24K Magic in 2016. A gap this large allowed emerging performers to easily gain attention in a fast-paced music business. Bruno started focusing more on live performances, particularly his residencies in Las Vegas, rather than on new music. He was able to continue entertaining audiences and making a consistent living thanks to his performances. Although his residencies at places like the Park MGM were well received and popular, residencies are frequently seen as an indication that an artist's days of topping international charts are over. Bruno was performing older songs for people who wanted to relive his earlier achievements rather than going on tour with brand new singles. This change was a watershed. Bruno Mars' career appeared to have slowed, despite the fact that he was still regarded as a talented performer. He no longer had the constant momentum that had propelled him from one blow to the next. It was replaced by a more subdued, steady rhythm. As time passed, fans started to worry what Bruno Mars's current life was like. Today, Bruno Mars Bruno Mars is getting close to 40 years old. In addition, his career appears to be significantly different from the early years when he appeared to control the music business. He used to be one of pop's most dependable hitmakers, but in recent years, he has become considerably more subdued. Many fans are left wondering what has happened to the singer who used to dominate the charts as the steady stream of new singles, accolades, and world tours has slowed. Bruno appears to be less interested in following trends as he ages. Many people believe he is receding from the spotlight because he no longer feels like the unstoppable presence he once was. The silence is startling for a performer who made his living by being everywhere at once. Bruno has performed in Las Vegas for the majority of the past few years rather than touring the world. His acts are well liked by crowds, and reviewers frequently compliment the caliber of his performances. He has had long-term residencies at large venues including the Park MGM. Bruno keeps giving supporters what they desire. Precise choreography, powerful vocals, and the same charisma that brought him fame. However, the reputation of residencies differs from that of worldwide tours. They are dependable, steady, and profitable. However, they also represent a step down from being a worldwide superstar. Many people believe that performers migrate to Las Vegas residency once their days of consistently making the top of the charts are over. Even though Bruno still puts on amazing shows, the venue doesn't feel as big as the global stage he used to dominate. Behind the curtain, there were reviews that Bruno's reliance on residencies is tied to economic troubles. No matter his big fulfillment, he has faced claims of mounting tax debts and heavy spending. Luxury homes, motors, and an extravagant lifestyle can also have caught up with him. Even as exact numbers are difficult to verify, the rumors were sturdy enough to shape the general public's belief of him. For a person who sold thousands and thousands of records and performed to bought-out arenas, the idea of monetary struggles appears sudden. Yet, the track enterprise is complete of examples of stars who lost manipulate in their wealth. And Bruno has no longer escaped the hypothesis. The suggestion that he's relying on regular Las Vegas income to cover debts has fueled the concept that his career is now not as secure because it as soon as appeared. Another part of Bruno's quieter existence these days comes from his retreat from the public eye. In contrast to an advance in his career while he was anywhere in interviews and media, he now maintains a miles decreased profile. There has been speculation that years of non-prevent appearing may also have taken a toll on his health. Although Bruno himself has now not shared many information, steady traveling, rehearsing, and performing at the high-power stage he's acknowledged for can wear down even the most powerful performers. Bruno has additionally been more personal about his private life in current years. He has been in a protracted time period dating with Jessica Cabin, but the couple stays away from the spotlight. This retreat has made him more difficult to comply with, adding to the feel that he has stepped again from the sector that once celebrated him so loudly. For plenty enthusiasts, the assessment between Bruno Mars then and Bruno Mars now feels dramatic. He became once the embodiment of pleasure, confidence, and showmanship with a profession constructed on electricity and innovation. Nowadays, he is seen through a few as a fading determined, relying on beyond hits and nostalgia to preserve his profession alive. His live suggests still shine, but they are fueled extra by using songs from his top years than by using new creations. Instead of placing the path of Father Tune as he as soon as did, Bruno is now surviving on the inspiration he built years in the past. Nostalgia has grown to be the primary pressure keeping his career afloat. To some, this appears like an unhappy fact for an artist who as soon as seemed unstoppable. In case you enjoyed this, remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.